Next, following the collapse of the charity Kids Company back in 2015, its founder, Camila Batmanghelidjh, seemed to disappear from public life. But in October of this year, she was back. 2 years on, her anger and defiance that she had anything to do with the charity folding was very evident. Have a look.
There wasn't financial mismanagement of Kids Company. Let's be very clear about that. When Kids Company closed in August 2015, we had a year's money ahead, 3 months reserves. What shut the doors of Kids Company was false sexual abuse allegations being taken to Newsnight, broadcast, and then the police subsequently found that no crime had been committed. We were cleared, but by then it was too late because the funders who had pledged the money withdrew their grants, and because of that the trustees had to close it.
You couldn't pay your staff. I mean, you were in financial trouble.
No, we couldn't pay our staff. It's very important that when we have this conversation that you ask me questions, you don't, because there are so many inaccurate pieces of information.
It's true that you couldn't pay your staff.
The reason we couldn't pay our staff...
So that is true.
No, we couldn't pay our self-employed staff because our payroll staff were paid completely to the last month that they worked with us. The reason we couldn't pay the self-employed staff is because the Cabinet Office created a rumour that the 3 million grant they gave us wasn't for salaries and was misspent.
But you had to get an emergency grant from the government.
Consequently, 2.1 million of that grant was left in the bank account when we could have paid the self-employed, and that's the point.
You had to get an emergency grant from the government.
Well, you describe it as an emergency grant. The truth is that there were significant discussions taking place behind the scenes with the Cabinet Office about the fact that the funding they were giving us was insufficient. The problem is that in a short television interview, I cannot give you the full detail, but what I can tell you is that there was a systematic dismantling of Kids Company by a kind of politically driven malicious campaign.
Why would that be when this was a government who'd given you £47 million in grants?
Because government is not cohesive. You think so all of government works together. It doesn't.
OK, a politically motivated dismantling, you say. So some kind of conspiracy to shut you down. Who was involved in that?
Well, there were some civil servants and some politicians. And the difficulty I have is I don't know exactly who.
Who do you
think? But we know that this has happened.
Who do you think?
I don't know, and I'm not going to get into a guessing game.
Can you understand that it does sound slightly absurd to say, on the one hand, the government is giving you £47 million. That is a lot of money. And on the other hand, there is an unnamed civil servant or two trying to somehow, civil servant, dismantle you.
Well, look, you think you live in a democracy, but actually it's not that straightforward. When
let me ask you that. You're not going to apologise to the children that were let down by the closure of Kids Company?
Don't put me in that position, Victoria. Don't frame it in that way, because that is not right.
Children were let down by the closure of Kids Company?
Children were let down by the closure of Kids Company.
And I'm asking you, would you like to apologise for that?
In my book, I have clearly stated that the one thing I experience is extreme sorrow at the fact that the children suffered in this way.
And do you accept some responsibility for that?
We were not responsible for the closure of Kids Company. No. And I'm being absolutely clear about that.
Okay.
And the only way we're going to get the truth here is if there is some kind of an inquiry, and I don't want us to spend the money on it, but some kind of an inquiry that is independent of government machinery.
OK, all right, next question. Would you like to apologise to the taxpayers and to the people who donated, from the goodness of their heart, money that you wasted?
I don't think we wasted money. Why are you assuming that we wasted money? Where did that come from?
Well, a pair of shoes for £305 for one client.
Well, that I don't know. what the story of that is.
So
at the
it's
moment,
potentially a waste. I mean, anyone spending £305 on shoes is a waste.
If that has taken place, and I don't know what the real story of that is, I would have to find out about that. And that wouldn't be something that I would want.
It's in an audited report.
But hold on a second.
Let me ask you...
Victoria, people gave us money. Be very careful about this again. We actually fundraised to buy the children clothes. So there were restricted funds to buy the children clothes.
And people give you money when you fundraise. So they give it from the goodness of their heart. And they probably don't expect it to be spent on designer shoes. More than £50,000 spent on someone described as the child of an Iranian diplomat, including funding their PhD studies.
Again, that isn't how the story is, and I don't think you should frame it in this way.
Well, this is all from an audited report. Let me give you another example.
Report?
An adult client paid...
Where is this audited report?
An adult client paid
No, Victoria, you've just made an allegation. Yeah, and I think you haven't identified the source of the report for me. I don't know where you're getting your figures from. We housed families. I don't know which family you're describing, but you're not asking me the questions that really matter, which is why was Kids Company left with some 17,000 children who were statutory responsibility with no one willing to pay for it. Okay. Why were we getting that type of child through our doors? Those are the sort of questions you should be asking me.
No, those are the sort of questions you want me to ask. Described as some of the most engaging coverage of the general election, we took two celebrities with opposing views out on a blind date to put serious political debate in an everyday setting. The series showed that in an increasingly polarised world, where debate is often very black and white, there can be consensus amongst people on opposite sides of the spectrum. We shined the silverware, polished the glasses and invited them to lunch. An election blind date.
Could you go to bed with a Remainer? Could you make her see the light?
Do you know what? I'm not going to answer that. I'm not going to answer that.
Are you only attracted to Brexiters?
No.
That's a good question.
Got him now. He has no words.
I'm stumped on that.
I must ask if the story about you meeting someone on a plane is true.
Oh, yes. What happened
Is it
on the
true?
plane?
Just a ridiculous setup.
You were snogging this page 3 model.
Just ludicrous, the whole thing. Well,
I hope someone's got video footage.
Page 3 model would have been okay, wouldn't it? Well, a bit more serious than that.
What was she doing in business class, though?
That's a very good question. Good question. Anyway,
Were you stitched up like a UKIPper?
A UKIPper, yeah.